instead of the Border Patrol Chief Louis Barker, who is responsible for this, and Johnny Sutton, and Deborah Kainoff, Jose Luis Gonzalez, the prosecutors in this case. They are the ones responsible for this $5 million lawsuit, and they lied and lied and lied to the jury. There was a sealed indictment and a warrant on this drug smuggler the day of the trial, and we were threatened with jail time or prison time if the jury were to find out. Of course, the whole nation knows about it now. If the jury were to find out about the sealed indictment and this warrant on this drug smuggler, and it just goes on with all the lies of the prosecution in this case, and Johnny Sutton, why he caters to the Mexican government, why he goes over there. And this is not the only case. We got Dave Sibes.
Let's talk about that, Joe. Tell us about the other cases.
Yeah, we have.
I want to ask you some questions.
We have David Sibes, who was released after 7 years in prison. He got in a struggle with an illegal alien, and he just couldn't hold him down, and finally he had to hit him with his flashlight. He hit him in the head with his flashlight. He was charged with civil rights violation, okay? Policemen can do that. Everybody can do that except Border Patrol, because the Mexican illegals are going to be strongly supported by the Mexican government and the Mexican consulate. Now, this is David Sibes. He's been cleared, as a matter of fact, but this is 7 years after he spent in prison and lost his family.
He was in prison 7 years before it was cleared up. Well, that's not going to happen with your son.
Then we have Gary Bruckman. He's another agent who just got out a year ago after serving 24 months. I think he got a 27-month. In his case, he and a rookie border patrolman who had only been on duty 4 days were surrounded by illegal aliens. There was about 10 of them. And they told him to sit on the floor. And they were all around the two Border Patrol agents. Well, Bruckman saw two of them just squatting down like this, like they were going to jump this other Border Patrolman. And Bruckman told him, sit down. He told him in Spanish, of course. He wouldn't. So Bruckman, of course, watching out for the rest of them, went over there and pushed him with his foot to sit him down. Pushed him on the chest, pushed him with his foot. He was charged with civil rights violation by Johnny Sutton. He lost everything. He just got out a year ago. He was the last 6 months, I think, 9 months, he spent at Yazoo City Federal Penitentiary, where my son-in-law.
Why should an illegal alien have any civil rights? But that's anybody gone to? By the way, I'm afraid. I'm just going public. I'm afraid to go. I don't want to go to Mexico. I mean, everybody knows it's an illegal government, and then the cops are crooks, and everybody's in the take. Sorry about this.
And then the other case is the one where Deputy Sheriff Gilmer Hernandez was sentenced 3 weeks ago, almost 3 weeks ago, to 1 year and 1 day in prison, also for a civil rights violation. Another Johnny Sutton, Bill Bauman prosecution, where they went to Mexico. They went to the Mexican government to bring back this lady who supposedly had a couple of chipped teeth from an encounter with Deputy Gilmer Hernandez, who stopped a Suburban in Rock Springs, Texas. They tried to run him over as he was approaching the Suburban. They tried to run him over. He pulled his gun and he shot at the tires. One of the bullets didn't hit the woman. It was a metal fragment from the Suburban itself, or maybe from the wheel, we don't know, hit her in the mouth. There was 8 illegals stuffed in the back of that Suburban.
Which, by the way, they had attempted to run over Deputy Hernandez,
Gilmer Hernandez,
and they were running away when he fired at the tires to stop.
He was charged with a civil rights violation. He was sentenced, and like in the case of my son-in-law, you know, he was sentenced to 11 years in prison, plus 3 years probation after he gets out. That's 14 years. My daughter, my son-in-law have 3 boys, 7, 9, and 13, 14 now. And it's just been a nightmare. It's you know, like Gary Bruckman says, I have a hard time with it because, like Gary Bruckman says in his letter, he says, sometimes it's so hard for a grown man to find a place to cry.
Well,
sometimes I have to hide.
You're called for such a time as this. It's weird to me that Johnny Sutton, that Homeland Security is, and I heard the sheriff, the Hernandez, the town that this Deputy Sheriff Hernandez was working out of, and at midnight, and just because what's happening here is there's a movement going on from the White House on down, and they're saying, do not enforce border control. And they're issuing a warning. Now, I want to say something. What sense does it make that we allegedly are over in Iraq fighting terrorism, and our Border Patrol agents aren't allowed to enforce the law here? But we have in front of us today family victims. This dear lady's husband is in prison. I mean, he slept in prison last night. And let's talk to you a minute, Monica. You're one of my great heroes, and tell us about the emotional ride you've been on. Hold that microphone up.
2 years ago, I never thought I'd be standing here being my husband's voice. It's been an emotional roller coaster. As my dad explained, when they came to get my husband, just dealing with that first initial incident was hard to deal with. I had a SWAT team at my house that came waving rifles, shotguns in my house in front of my 3 children. And that is something that I struggle with every day, telling my kids, you know, our law enforcement is here to protect us, but they can't fully understand how we went through this. They're very proud of their father. My husband sits in prison today in total isolation, 24/7. Actually, now he gets an hour out. I hang on to getting letters from him right now, being able to tell him about how his children are doing, how we're doing, how we're surviving every day. I have the 3 boys, all boys, so of course I can't even fill the shoes my husband carries, that bond with his children. I have my 7-year-old who has just really doesn't want to eat anymore. He has lots of nightmares about what happened when they came to get my husband. You know, the doorbell rings. Oh, yeah. The doorbell rings and he'll run to the door and he'll stand in front and say, "Don't answer that door, Mommy, there's guns behind it." We tried to seek counseling. My 9-year-old says that he doesn't feel he can go to counseling right now. He doesn't feel that anybody's fully going to understand how this has impacted us unless you go through it. And he has so much anger bottled up in him right now, my 9-year-old. My husband was his little league coach. So, you know, my husband didn't just leave our 3 children. He left a team. He left a bunch of little boys, 9-year-olds, that just looked up to him every day to be there at practice, to cheer them on at their games, to show them what little boys do. I can't begin to fill that gap either. I have my 14-year-old that, as any parent will know, going into the teenage years is difficult. You want to guide them in the right direction. I became a single parent overnight, and the struggles I face every day, I can't be with them every minute. I have to work. I have to provide for them. I have to make sure things still go as normal as possible.
So you're not, your husband you no longer get a weekly paycheck from your husband?
No. 2 years ago, he was ripped of his duties, his badge, his job, and told, "You'll be suspended until this is cleared up." Officially, he was terminated on November 11th of 2000.